You pour a glass right now, and it looks pure, white, clean, simple. You grew up believing milk was milk, calcium, protein, something your bones need. But the white liquid in that glass contains something the industry doesn't want on the label, and it's been engineered that way on purpose. Most Americans think they're drinking the same milk humans have consumed for thousands of years. They're not. The milk industry redesigned the product to maximize profit and shelf life, not your health. What you're actually drinking is processed, denatured, stripped of its recognizable structure, and rebuilt into something your body doesn't know how to use. It triggers inflammation instead of building bone. It causes dysbiosis instead of supporting your gut. And the industry knows this, but never says it out loud, because saying it out loud would collapse the entire conventional milk market. There's one specific chemical glitch found in 90% of US milk that acts like a biological switch for inflammation. I'm going to show you exactly how to spot it on a label, even when they try to hide it. Today, we're exposing the 5 brands you should never buy and the 5 that are actually real. By the end, you'll know exactly which carton to reach for and which ones to leave on the shelf. The problem isn't accident, it's architecture. The industry chose 3 specific practices to maximize profit at the expense of every cell in your body. Ultra-high heat pasteurization heats milk to 138 degrees Celsius for just a few seconds. It mangles the milk proteins, changing their shape so much that your body treats them like a foreign invader instead of food. Standard pasteurization does the job at 72 degrees for 15 to 20 seconds with almost no nutrient loss. But the heat difference buys shelf life, weeks instead of days. That shelf life is worth millions. Homogenization blasts the fat into tiny particles, so small they can sneak through your gut wall and enter your blood without being digested first. Your body treats this as an attack and spends the next hours fighting inflammation. But the worst part is the protein itself. A1 milk contains a specific protein that breaks down into a tiny chemical glitch during digestion. This glitch leaks into your system and tells your body to start an inflammatory fire. Joint pain, gut dysbiosis, metabolic disruption. The industry knows this completely. They just don't label it because everyone would know their milk is inflammatory by design. Walmart's store brand is sourced from multiple CAFOs with zero transparency about which farms. You have no idea what's in your gallon. Customers report early spoilage days before expiration, a sign that pasteurization temperatures are inconsistent. Testing shows 60% of conventional milk samples contain detectable antibiotic residues, some exceeding legal limits. Growth hormone levels run high. The milk switches suppliers constantly based on cost alone, guaranteeing inconsistent contamination. And here's what nobody talks about. Consumer Reports tested milk across 5 states and found PFAS, forever chemicals, linked to cancer, immune dysfunction, and thyroid problems in multiple conventional samples. One Kirkland signature sample hit 84 parts per trillion of PFOA. The EPA's drinking water limit is 4 parts per trillion. To visualize this, if you poured the EPA's safe amount into an Olympic swimming pool, the milk sample would contain 21 pools worth of that same chemical. That's the contamination level in a single gallon sitting in American refrigerators right now. Fairlife charges double conventional milk and markets extraordinary care. In 2019, Animal Recovery Mission released undercover footage from Fair Oaks Farms, Fairlife's major supplier, showing workers kicking calves, beating them with steel rods, and leaving them in extreme confinement without veterinary care. The abuse was systematic across the facility. Coca-Cola paid $21 million to settle the fraud lawsuit, admitting consumers paid premium prices for false claims. But here's the part that matters. The 2023 ARM investigation returned to Fair Oaks affiliated farms and documented conditions worse than before. Continued beatings, medical neglect, and systematic cruelty. Milk trucks were tracked directly to Fairlife processing plants in 2023, despite Coca-Cola's promises to stop sourcing from the operation. The ultrafiltration process removes beneficial enzymes and creates unnaturally shelf-stable product. Dead milk dressed as premium. Dean Foods filed for bankruptcy in 2019, fragmenting into regional operations. FDA inspection records documented equipment failures and inadequate sanitation. The conventional production carries pesticide residues, antibiotic contamination, and synthetic growth hormones across multiple regional brands operating under different management, with no unified safety standards. Now, here's where it gets worse. Don't think buying organic is your get-out-of-jail-free card. One of the biggest organic brands in the country was caught running a massive industrial operation that would make a conventional farm look clean. We'll expose that brand right now. Stop here. Before we go deeper, let's decode the language you see on every carton. The dairy industry uses words that sound reassuring, but mean almost nothing legally. Natural means nothing. No legal definition exists. It could mean a cow was touched by a human who stood in a field once. Farm fresh means nothing. Milk can travel 1,200 miles and still be called farm fresh if it came from a farm at some point. Wholesome means nothing. It's marketing vocabulary with zero regulatory meaning. No artificial growth hormones means the cow was treated with RBST, the synthetic hormone. But the label is technically true because RBST is considered naturally derived. It's built from bacteria DNA, technically biological, technically not synthetic, to a lawyer. Antibiotic-free means nothing because all milk is required to test antibiotic-free by federal law. Any antibiotic residue, and the batch is discarded. The label is just restating the legal minimum and making it sound like a special achievement. Organic is the only label with actual teeth, but industrial organic operations have found loopholes. Grain supplementation, confinement, CAFOs, and massive scale all technically qualify. Cold shipped means it was refrigerated. It doesn't mean fresh, doesn't mean clean, just means cold. From local dairies is vague enough to be useless. Local could mean your state or your region. Local could mean a truck traveled 300 miles and still qualifies. When you stand in the dairy aisle, ignore 90% of what the carton says. Look for three things: A2 genetics, actually labeled, grass-fed status, actually verifiable, and a cream layer, actually visible. Everything else is marketing designed to make you feel safe while you buy the product that harms you. The USDA revoked certification from a major Horizon supplier after investigators found cattle in feedlots eating grain, not grazing on pasture. Marketing shows pastoral imagery. Reality is thousands of confined cows. Grass-fed milk contains 3 times more omega-3s than grain-fed. Consumers pay organic prices for grain-fed nutrition. Lawsuits over DHA claims followed. Packaging implied omega-3s came naturally, not from added supplements. Kroger Simple Truth, Safeway Organics, Albertsons Open Nature, many source from Aurora Organic Dairy, a massive industrial operation with repeated federal violations. The Washington Post found cattle in dirt lots, not pasture, violating organic standards directly. Aurora supplies 15% of all U.S. organic milk. 1 in 7 organic cartons comes from a facility with documented violations. The FDA won't approve health claims distinguishing A1 from A2 because doing so would require labeling 95% of U.S. conventional milk as inflammatory. That's a regulatory decision that would collapse an industry. Meanwhile, A2 milk is priced 50 to 100% higher than conventional milk, a premium that consumers willingly pay once they understand the difference. The dairy industry breeds exclusively for milk volume. A1 cows produce more milk per lactation cycle, so they dominate U.S. herds. The genetic selection was never about what your body needs, it was about yield per animal. Before we go further, ask yourself this. 2 hours after you drink milk or eat cheese, do you experience bloating, brain fog, joint pain that wasn't there yesterday, skin breakouts that clear up when you avoid dairy, chronic sinus congestion that nobody can explain, gas so bad you avoid social situations? These aren't lactose intolerance. Most lactose intolerant people can tolerate dairy fine if the protein hasn't been denatured. What you're experiencing is the synthetic inflammation response to A1 protein crossing your gut barrier. A2 milk doesn't trigger this response in most people. The protein structure stays intact. Your body recognizes it as food. The inflammation stops. The symptoms disappear. This isn't theoretical. People report this change within days of switching. Now, back to the science. Here's something you can test in your own kitchen right now. Real milk, the kind from a grass-fed cow processed at low temperature, spoils noticeably within 7 to 10 days. You smell it. You see it curdle. Your body gets a clear signal. Don't drink this anymore. Industrial milk? It stays fresh for 3 to 4 weeks. No smell, no visible change. You could drink it at week 3 and it tastes fine. This isn't a feature. It's a warning sign. The reason is chemistry. Industrial processing denatures the proteins so thoroughly that the bacteria responsible for normal fermentation can't break them down. Real spoilage, the kind that produces lactic acid and protects your gut, never happens. Instead, the milk sits in your refrigerator dead, stable, chemically preserved by its own denaturation. When you finally drink it at week 3, your body gets no warning. The lactobacilli that would normally create protective acid and signal spoilage are gone. What you're consuming isn't fresh. It's just not broken down enough for you to notice it's been dead the whole time. The difference between A1 and A2 isn't just a protein variant. It's the difference between food your body recognizes and a substance your immune system treats as a threat. When A1 beta-casein enters your digestive system, it breaks down into beta-casomorphin 7. This peptide doesn't just pass through, it crosses your gut barrier and enters your bloodstream, where your body mounts an inflammatory response. A 2026 research review analyzing 8 studies found exactly what happens next. A1 milk is associated with gut dysbiosis and pathogenic bacteria like Streptococcus pyogenes, while simultaneously reducing beneficial strains like Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium. A2 milk does the opposite. It promotes short-chain fatty acid production and a healthier microbiome composition that actually supports your immune function instead of attacking it. The FDA won't approve health claims distinguishing A1 from A2 because doing so would require labeling 95% of US conventional milk as inflammatory. That's a regulatory decision that would collapse an industry. Meanwhile, A2 milk is priced 50 to 100% higher than conventional milk, a premium that consumers willingly pay once they understand the difference. The dairy industry breeds exclusively for milk volume. A1 cows produce more milk per lactation cycle, so they dominate US herds. The genetic selection was never about what your body needs, it was about yield per animal. Standard HTST pasteurization at 72 degrees preserves most nutrient integrity, though it does cause small but measurable losses in heat-sensitive vitamins like B1 and C, typically around 15 to 16.6%. The milk remains recognizable to your digestive system, and the safety gain justifies these minimal losses. But UHT at 138 degrees goes much further. It denatures whey proteins and destroys the structural integrity of casein molecules completely. This isn't accidental damage, it's the cost of creating shelf stability. Enzymes that aid digestion denature under that heat. Beneficial compounds fragment. What emerges from UHT processing is molecularly similar to milk, but your body processes it as inflammation. Low-temperature vat pasteurization exists as an alternative, 63 degrees for 30 minutes. It meets safety standards while preserving enzyme structure and protein integrity and avoiding the vitamin losses that even HTST creates. but it requires immediate cooling and creates a shorter shelf life. That translates to spoilage losses for retailers and a narrower profit window for processors. The industry chose money over your digestive health because regulation permitted it. Recombinant bovine growth hormone forces cows to produce beyond their biological capacity. The result is mastitis infections in 40 to 50% of treated herds, inflamed udders, painful infections. Veterinary protocols demand aggressive antibiotic treatment. A single dairy cow on RBST may receive multiple antibiotic courses annually. Scale this across millions of animals, and you create a breeding ground for antibiotic-resistant bacteria that eventually enters the human food supply. The CDC reports 22% of antibiotic-resistant infections originate from foodborne pathogens. Dairy industry antibiotic overuse is a major driver. Canada and the EU banned RBST in 1999. Only America continues widespread use because the industry lobbied successfully to keep it. Here's how the revolving door actually works. A deputy commissioner at the FDA moves to a trade association, earning triple the salary and bringing regulatory knowledge and direct relationships. The result? In 2024, the dairy industry spent $7.64 million on lobbying, with 66% of registered dairy lobbyists being former government employees. They aren't hired for expertise in dairy science. They're hired because they know which buttons to push in Congress, which agencies move slowly, and exactly how to block oversight from the people who used to be their colleagues. Consumer Reports tested milk across 5 states and found PFOA and PFOS in multiple samples, including organic varieties. These forever chemicals leak into the water from firefighting foam used on military bases and airports. They also seep into soil through sewage sludge spread as fertilizer. PFAS accumulates in your body and is linked to cancer, immune dysfunction, thyroid disruption, and metabolic problems in children. The EPA limits drinking water to 4 parts per trillion. Some milk samples tested at 84 parts per trillion of PFOA. No federal limits exist for food. Most farms won't test for them because if they find contamination, they'd be forced to shut down and lose everything. If you want milk that doesn't trigger inflammation, that actually nourishes instead of depletes, 4 things matter fundamentally. The herd genetics must be A2 dominant or A2 only, not a marketing claim, but verified through independent testing. The cows must graze on pasture year-round, not grain-supplemented operations that slap an organic label on confinement. The pasteurization method must be low-temperature vat processing or raw from a certified low-risk farm, nothing above 65 degrees. And there's one visual signal you can check yourself: cream layer. If the milk is homogenized into a uniform white liquid, it's been processed to slip past your barriers. Real milk stratifies. The fat rises naturally to the top. Before we reveal which brands actually deliver this, here's the one visual cue the industry cannot fake: a specific golden tint that only appears in genuinely grass-fed milk. If your milk is stark white, it isn't grass-fed, no matter what the label says. That golden color comes from beta-carotene and grass. You'll see exactly what I mean when we get to our number 1 pick. Organic Valley is a farmer-owned cooperative, not a corporation answering to shareholders demanding quarterly growth. That ownership structure changes everything. When farmers own the company, cutting corners hurts them directly. The cooperative includes over 1,700 small family farms, each subject to regular third-party organic audits, with actual farm inspections. Independent lab testing consistently confirms higher omega-3 and CLA levels than industrial competitors. FDA inspection records show sustained strong performance at processing facilities. You can trace your carton back to specific farms. Maple Hill commits exclusively to 100% grass-fed, not mostly, not primarily, only grass and forage year-round. That exclusivity delivers measurable difference: 5 times more CLA than conventional milk, significantly higher omega-3 levels, and better fat ratios. They work with small family farms in New York's Hudson Valley with annual third-party certification audits. Low-temperature vat pasteurization preserves enzymes while maintaining safety. The milk carries a distinctive golden tint from beta-carotene, visual proof you can't fake. The slightly shorter shelf life isn't a flaw. It's evidence the product hasn't been chemically preserved. A note on texture. Independent taste tests rank Maple Hill as watery or thin compared to industrial brands, which load their milk with heat-stable emulsifiers to create false creaminess. That perceived thinness is actually ancestral. Real grass-fed milk from properly fed animals tastes different from the homogenized, processed version most people grew up drinking. Your palate will adapt within days. Stonyfield operated since 1983 and holds B Corp certification, meaning environmental and social impact accountability is embedded in corporate structure, not just marketing. Full-fat milk with genuine creaminess and flavor complexity that industrial processing destroys. The company maintains pasteurization standards without sacrificing nutrient integrity. Third-party audits cover the entire supplier network. Independent taste testing consistently ranks this brand highest for depth and versatility. Raw milk contains active enzymes, beneficial bacteria, and protein structures your body immediately recognizes as food. The lactase enzyme naturally present means people with perceived lactose intolerance often tolerate raw milk because the enzyme does the digestive work before it reaches your gut. Higher immunoglobulin levels and beneficial bacteria support immune function directly. Legal in 20+ US states through direct farm sales or herd share models. The risk is manageable if you source from certified low-risk farms with regular testing through Raw Milk Institute standards. Small-scale regional operations increasingly test herds for A2 genetics and market this directly. Direct-to-consumer models provide complete transparency and relationship with farmers. Low-temperature processing, typically non-homogenized, with visible cream layer. These producers charge premium prices but deliver ancestral milk standards, the product your great-grandparents drank. Your body evolved consuming A2 milk from grass-fed animals, processed minimally. The 5 brands to avoid prioritize profit margins over nutrient density. The 5 real options do the opposite. Check labels for A2 genetics, grass-fed status, low-temp processing, and traceability. Subscribe for more investigations into which foods are actually food.